The Russian central bank has delivered its bluntest warning yet. The EU's attempt to use frozen Russian assets is illegal, desperate, and doomed. Moscow says Brussels is no longer pretending, it's crossing into outright financial theft as Western economies struggle to bankroll Ukraine's collapse.
This regulation would prohibit the transfer of Russian immobilized assets and prevent that Russia uses these assets to further fuel its war of aggression. This regulation will function in parallel with our sanctions regime and ensure that Russia's assets stay immobilized.
Russia has now launched a direct legal counterstrike, filing a lawsuit against Euroclear, the Brussels powerhouse holding most of Russia's immobilized funds. Moscow accuses the EU of sabotaging sovereign finances to cover its own wartime failures, calling Euroclear's actions deliberate obstruction. Brussels has fully exposed its intentions. The EU is pushing a plan to turn Russia's frozen reserves into collateral for Ukraine's debt, effectively weaponizing stolen assets. Moscow says this crosses every red line in international law and proves the EU has abandoned all pretense of legality.
We urge everyone to move forward as quickly as possible on the issue of using frozen Russian assets. This is truly necessary and will make a significant contribution to our security, and we are waiting for feedback from America.
EU governments are now moving to make the asset freeze permanent, eliminating renewal checks and locking down Russian reserves indefinitely. Diplomats admit the bloc is preparing long-term economic warfare disguised as financial support for Kiev's future funding. Russia warns the EU that any attempt to use, redirect, or repurpose its central bank reserves will trigger the harshest countermeasures in courts, in diplomacy, and in global financial institutions. Moscow says it will challenge Brussels in every national and international tribunal available. At stake are more than $260 billion in Russian assets that Europe is desperately trying to exploit. Moscow calls it economic robbery, masquerading as policy, and vows that every euro seized illegally will be contested, reversed, and repaid with consequences.